cost of climatic or environmental disaster. Okay. But then, to return to what I was saying, how could anyone want to oppose this? Where does this come from? Okay. Well, it turns out that Professor Cafaro's ideas, and by the way, I just want to say one more thing about this. Professor Cafaro is opposed to immigration, not on the basis that certain other critics of immigration have, which they're afraid that immigrants will come here and be unemployed and be a slum population that will all be on welfare. Okay, not on the basis that they're afraid that the immigrants might come here and be criminals. No, because neither of those, people on welfare and criminals do not contribute to global warming. They produce no net wealth. Okay, he is afraid that they will come here and become prosperous, assimilated Americans. In his article in the Denver Post, he says, and I quote, "And make no mistakes, immigrants are not coming to the United States to remain poor. Those hundreds of millions of new citizens will want to live as well and consume energy at the same rate as other Americans." Okay? So he is objecting to immigration precisely on the grounds that it might lead to personal success and the advance of the condition of all of these people. How can someone propose that? How can someone say such things? Well, it turns out that the views that Cafaro espouses are not original. They are representative of a philosophy that's been around for about 200 years, which is known as anti-humanism. Next chart. Okay. What is anti-humanism? Anti-humanism is the belief, basically, that humans are not creators, they're destroyers. They are vermin consuming the world's fixed resources, and therefore their numbers, activities, and liberties must be severely curtailed, and, point 3, someone must be empowered to do the curtailing. And it's that last bit that has accounted for the persistence of anti-humanism over the past 200 years, despite the failure of all of its scientific so-called predictions, because this philosophy is very convenient to those who would be oppressors or tyrants. It justifies their existence. Okay? And thus, people espousing this philosophy have never lacked for sponsors. Next chart. So, the founding prophet of this so-called scientific anti-humanism is Thomas Malthus. And he's the guy who wrote the book around 1800. He said, population expands geometrically, food supply expands arithmetically, which is to say not much. And therefore, population, people are always going to be starving. And there's nothing you can do about it. If you try to help the poor, it won't do any good. They'll just multiply more, and there'll be more starving people. And it was on the basis of this philosophy, okay, that horrific crimes were conducted, starting in Ireland. Malthus was an employee of the British East India Company, and he came up with this line in order to justify the mass starvation that his employer was creating in India due to their policies of taxation and rat renting. And then his student, Charles Trevelyan, in Ireland during the so-called Great Famine, said, no, nothing should be done to help these people. In fact, we should evict them from their houses, okay, because if anything was done to keep them alive, there would just be more starving people. And by the way, during the whole so-called famine in Ireland, the place was exporting beef and grain. The Irish didn't starve because there was no food. The Irish starved because they had no cash, and they had no cash because of British oppressive economic policies of taxation and denial of the right to develop manufactures. Same thing in India. Okay, horrific famines in India in the 1870s. 20 million people died, and here there's got photographs by this time. It looks like Auschwitz. Florence Nightingale went to the governor. She said, you've got to lift these taxes. These people are starving. He said, nah, if we did that, they'd just multiply more. There'd be more of them starving. Next chart. Now, the thing you need to understand about Malthusianism, in addition to being uncompassionate, it is scientifically false. Okay? Because contrary to Malthus, okay, here we go. Here is the world population in blue. Here's GDP capita in black. As the world population has increased, we're going from here from 1500 to the present. As world population has increased drastically over this period, GDP per capita has also radically increased. In fact, it's increased even more. And so, for example, okay, Paul Ehrlich, who's the world's current leading Malthusian crank, he's the author of The Population Bomb. He's also wrote the introduction to Cafaro's book. Okay, 1968, in The Population Bomb, he says, look, here we go. We got 3.5 billion people in the world. We're going to double the population to 7 billion by the year 2000. There's hungry people today. They'll be starving in the streets by the year 2000. And not just in China and India. They just got to be sent down the drain. They'll be starving in the streets of America unless we have government-organized population control. Okay, well, what actually happened? Did the standard of living go down, as Ehrlich predicted? No, it went up. Okay, well, anybody's got the right to be wrong about the future. But if Ehrlich had taken, I mean, look, Ehrlich was born in 1931. If his theory had been correct, okay, if human well-being was inversely proportional to human numbers, then the world of the 1930s should have been much richer than the world of 1968. But of course, and he would have been there to see it. But of course, it wasn't. It was much poorer. Okay, so the willful ignoring of data that was there right in his face, that he didn't even have to look up, that he was there to see himself, that's what defines Ehrlich as being a crank. Now, and all these people as cranks. But the interesting question is this. Okay, Malthusianism is counterfactual. Why is it counterfactual? To a naive person, it may seem that it should make sense that the more people there are, the less there will be to go around. Okay, why has it always been the exact opposite? Well, first of all, every mouth comes with a pair of hands. So if that were, but if that was all there was to it, then it would be a wash. More people, less people, it'd all be the same. But in addition, every mouth and pair of hands comes with a brain. And the more people there are, the more inventors there are. And inventions are cumulative. Okay? And furthermore, the more people there are, the bigger the division of labor is, and the bigger the market is. The bigger the market is, the bigger it is to implement new technologies, because you can sell to it. And also the easier it is to develop infrastructure and support that. So we live as well as we do today, both because of all the 7 billion people living, inventing, buying alongside of us, working alongside of us, but also because of all the people that had lived in the past. I mean, imagine that Malthus had been actually listened to in 1800 and his ideas had been implemented as policy. And there had been half as many people in the world in the 1800s as there actually were. Okay? Well, then you can dispose of either Thomas Edison or Louis Pasteur, take your pick. Okay? You can either give up electricity or give up medicine. Your choice. Okay? And if we have less people, the future will be poorer.
1 minute.
There's only 1 minute left. Wow. Okay. Let's go forward a bunch of charts. Keep going. Okay. By the way, what you're looking at in these charts is an entire history of imposition of anti-human policy. Go back one chart here. Back. And, let's just go to the conclusions. Look, here's the point. Ideas have consequences. And if you accept the idea that humans are consumers, not creators, then every new person on the earth is a threat to everyone else. And every race and nation is a threat to every other nation. We're all competing for limited resources. 1941, Adolf Hitler said, "The laws of existence require uninterrupted killing so that the better may live." Genocide is not motivated by hate, it's motivated by the scientific facts that there's only so much to go around, and so some people have to go. Okay? That is where this philosophy leads. The earth has only so much carrying capacity, let's eliminate the other people. Okay? The other point of view, the opposite point of view, is that humans are creators. And therefore, every new person born in the world is a gift. Every nation is potentially the friend of every other nation. Cafaro's worldview is a worldview that will create world war. Because, for instance, if it's accepted by the Chinese, then the United States must be eliminated. Despite the fact that from a correct view, they would see the United States has been of tremendous benefit to them. From the point of view of Malthusian strategic thinkers looking at it from the US side, Cafaro's view will dictate world war. We can't let the Chinese develop. If the sons and daughters of Chinese peasants go to college, they'll buy cars, they'll be using up all the oil that we need to have. Instead of understanding that if China advances, the sons and daughters of Chinese peasants will become scientists and engineers, and they'll start contributing their talent to the advance of humanity. So that's the choice. A world where human potential is limited and where it's a war of all against all, or a world where human potential is unlimited, where resources are unlimited, and where all men can be brothers, and where we don't need to go to war, and where the fundamental obligation of government is not to limit liberty, but to protect it at all costs. Thank you.
Mr. Zubrin, I have heard you before rebut, which you have not done just now, specifically the concern that we are causing global warming and that global warming is harmful to people. If you wouldn't mind, Professor, shall we have him take a couple of minutes so that he has adequately answered that part of your argument? Then we really met the two arguments. Sure. Is that all right? Just take 2 minutes on, are we causing global warming, and if the globe is warming through our fault or not our fault, is that a bad thing?
Okay, well, actually, this spring was the coldest, the second coldest spring on record since 1860. So this somewhat weakens the argument for global warming. But if there is global warming, it's a very positive development. Global warming lengthens the growing season. It increases net rainfall worldwide. We probably are enriching the atmosphere with CO2. This is a very good thing. We have photographs, because CO2 accelerates plant growth. We have photographs taken from orbit since 1958, and they show the rate of plant growth on Earth has accelerated by 15%. Now, I'm not talking about agricultural plants. They've done much better than that. They've got science and technology behind them. I'm talking about wild plants, forests, jungles, and we know that it's our CO2 that's doing it because you can repeat the experiment in the lab. We're making the Earth a more fertile world, okay? And yet, the anti-humanists say, this is bad. For this, humanity must be locked up. If we were driving CO2 levels down, they might have a case. We're doing the exact opposite. The Chinese have a saying, where there is a will to condemn, evidence is never lacking, okay? The anti-humanists are looking for a basis to impose limits on humanity, and it doesn't matter to them whether it's getting cooler or warmer. In the 1970s, it was getting cooler, and the same people, early, for example, who are currently running around saying we got to put limits on humanity because of warming, were saying they had to do it because of cooling, okay? Which they also blamed on industry. It's out of control. It's got to be put under control. Put us in control. Same thing today. Okay, global warming is good. Humanity is good. We should be proud to make the world a more fertile world.
Thank you.